Welcome to another edition of SA Explained. This one is particularly special. It's been a year since that historic press briefing by the KZN Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I think it's now a name that the entire country knows. Obviously, I've got my man here with me, Pule Letshwiti-Jones.
You took my phone.
Yes, I took your phone.
You took my phone.
Because of the last podcast that you were more worried about breaking news, and we know you've been breaking stories.
Yeah, I know, because I'm constantly on my phone. In fact, I think I've just gotten addicted to my handheld device.
You're probably going to be breaking like you've broken 5 stories in this time.
Yeah.
So I need you to focus because this is really important, right?
Right.
A year. It's been a long year. It's been a long year.
The year has been draining.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of breaks. The team hasn't had a lot of breaks. I think we've been,
I get up at
like 6 times a week. You know, on Saturdays you're off, and that's if someone's not getting arrested on a Saturday.
No, I get up at like 2 a.m. Like there's Pule like tweeting like, "Hey, listen, this happened. Someone got arrested. There's a raid here." But no, man, you've been killing it. So
yeah.
Look, do you remember life before July 6th? July 6th is like almost like this magical date now.
July 6th is like enough is enough.
Yeah.
It's like that monumental moment where Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi basically says the buck stops here.
What were you doing on that day? Were you working?
It was a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I was meant to work.
Yeah.
And I just gotten up and I saw you.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys were preparing or something.
Yeah, sure.
Constantly. And everyone was just saying on social media, everyone was just like, what the hell's going on?
Did you get up and like start seeing this chaos?
So to be honest, I first started seeing your messages in the WhatsApp group chat.
Yeah.
I got onto Twitter, on X, and everyone was just like tweeting about this and raving about this. And yeah, I guess that's where everything started.
And it's nice to get that perspective, right? Because even people from within the police were calling me.
Because I think Mkhwanazi was trending for like 2 weeks straight up until the president had to call for a family meeting.
Yeah.
And say he's placing Senzo Mkhunu on special leave.
Yeah.
He's going to establish an inquiry. All of us are like, not again. Another inquiry.
But look how it turned out, right? And the fact that Ramaphosa acted so quickly in that moment. And I think many people were, mind the pun, because he's always shocked, but we were shocked. Because, he released, I think a statement dropped on the same day.
Was not at the time where there were like GNU negotiations or something as well? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he was out of the country.
Yeah, exactly.
He was out of the country.
Just out of the country. Yeah, correct, yeah.
And then we see a statement dropping. I think it dropped that night. My memory serves. But look, on that very day, I think everyone got a sense that something big was going to happen just because of the timing. Like July 6th, it was a Sunday. I think it was the day after the Durban July.
Yes.
And Mkhwanazi
wasn't Sibiya and KZN.
No, Mkhunu was in KZN.
Yeah.
He was busy with something. And what was funny is the people around him at the time were contacting me, like on the Saturday already. And they were like, listen, are you coming to this thing? Do you want us to send you sound bites and pictures and volunteering information, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize the storm that was coming. And then the next day, when you realize, oh, wait, hold on. This dude is at the center of these allegations that are now being made, right? And that's why it was probably like a preemptive strike to say, let's try and get some good publicity around.
But I think it was a build-up, right? Because we were told about the raid that took place at Kat Matlala's house on the, I think, 16th of December 2024. Yeah. I think that's where some of the devices were confiscated. Katiso Molefa's house as well was raided during that same day. And essentially the messages that were coming from Kat's phone were built up to what Mkhwanazi had as what we potentially, looking into the Celeste cartel as well.
All of the stuff was happening in the background, right? Because you'll remember the January interview that we did on Police Day.
Yeah.
And it was
at really, a soccer field or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it was really poignant because it was Police Day. He was dressed in full ceremonial
100%.
You had the National Commissioner there. You had top brass. You had Senzo Mkhunu there.
Yeah.
And on the sidelines...
Was Masemola there as well?
Masemola was there?
Yeah.
And on the sidelines of that, you've got Mkhwanazi having this almost a tell-all exclusive interview with us. And the thing that was different about that was that he didn't name names there, right? But he already knew about the movements in December. The ones you just mentioned. Katie Molefe, Kat Matlala, all of that happened in December. This is January 27th or 28th. And he's talking about how the reason there's the smear campaign is because he knows that team, the GCI Ops, was investigating people that come from there.
So if you go back a bit, just before that interview you did with him, the disbandment letter had already been out.
Yeah, so that came out on the 31st.
31st. And 3 days before that, there was a meeting between Sibiya, Kunu, and I think someone else as well.
No, we were at
where they were basically just discussing about the disband, like where they were saying, because Sibiya spoke about this at the Madlanga Commission, where there was already conversations around the disbandment. And I think if my memory serves me right, Kunu met Masemola at a funeral.
Yeah, I was there.
Where this conversation took place as well.
We're up north.
They spoke about, it
was a policeman that passed away.
Yes.
And I even remember, because I took a picture of all of them. They were all standing together. So
100%.
when everything happened, and they were talking about July 6th, I'm like, wait a minute. These guys were together.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And there's a picture that was circulating after that where you see Masemola and Mkhwanazi looking like all sour-faced behind him. And you've got Mkhunu. I think he was doing a media briefing or whatever. But so all of these events happen. The interview happens. Mkhwanazi goes to Parliament on the 5th of June. And these things are rumbling in the background, right?
It actually took him 72 hours to disband this PKTT following the talks at the funeral, meeting Sibiya, and he said he just decided that he was going to disband it.
Yeah.
Which was very bizarre for, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, especially because of, him, I think he had just come in 6 months prior, right? Because it was, he'd come in, when was the election?
After the new formation of the Government of National Unity, and
my mind is so fried, like I've even forgotten the years. In 26, that would have been 24.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of that happened, right? He did that, he took that decision, goes to Parliament, Mkhunu is there, you've got Dumisani Khumalo there. Masemola, though, busy outlining a plan of how he's going to do this.
He was on leave at the time, I think, when disbandment took place, but when he came back, then he started rolling out the phasing out of the political killing task team. Yeah, and I think at some point,
man. I mean, many people would say that was a weak move, because if you're saying at a later stage, you're saying, look, I believe there was interference, but then you just go ahead with it. Like, it's not really a strong position to take as
Didn't he say it was career limiting or something at the commission?
Yeah, he said it was
and definitely, limiting. And I think he had, by not pushing back, it put him into a very precarious situation as well, because it came across as though he didn't really push back against this instruction, which, by the way, we now know that the commissioners, the commission described it as Kunu encroaching on operational matters.
Exactly. And the thing is that it just goes to show, like, how many things happen behind the scenes that us as citizens don't know. And remember, we are such huge stakeholders, for lack of a better term. We're stakeholders in the criminal justice system, right? Because it's meant to serve us, right? But all of the stuff is happening behind the scenes. You've got the top brass fighting. You've got people passing envelopes and tenders and doing all of those things.
100%.
All of that's happening behind the scenes. They're meant to be serving us. We're meant to be getting justice out of this thing. It's not happening. In KZN, at the time, especially during the course of that year, it was business as usual.
Sure.
So if you didn't know about the kind of fractures within the SAPS, you would go, wow, but it's business as usual in KZN. People are, there are shootouts with suspects, there are arrests, people are going to court, all of this stuff is going on. I mean, I even remember at some point, I can't remember which interview it was, but we spoke to Mkhwanazi somewhere along the way, and he'd even reiterated that, no, the PKTT is still working, And I found that interesting. This was like pre-July 6th. And I found it interesting because the directive had already been issued, that directive. But he was like, no, PKTT is still working. We started then to sense like, no. Now there's a disconnect here between top management and what's happening on the ground. Do you remember that, again, during that course of the year, I'm sure you heard all of the reports about KZN and what the policing was like there.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, obviously, and a lot of people saying, while there were critics about it being described as extrajudicial killings as well, and abuse of cops, and the likes of Mary de Haas coming forward, and complainants. I think one complainant in the Eastern Cape saying they were tortured by the PKTT. Yeah. all of these complaints, which formed part and parcel of the backbone of Mkhuna's submissions to the commission, some community members in KZN were saying, look, we are tired of the crime in our communities. And
that was it.
This is the only way that we believe that you can deal with crime.
It was a polarized view.
What did Mkhwanazi say when he hears the critiques? I'm so curious to hear what he says.
Man, at the time, it was like a topical thing. I don't know if it was just to get Elon's money on X or whatever. But then you'd have the bulk of people supporting this and saying,
right,
no, but this is how, you live by the gun, you die by the gun.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the one person popping up going, no, this is heavy-handed and this is that and all of that. So mainstream media, I think, broadly then lashed onto this thing. So in almost every interview that Mkhwanazi would do, the question would be asked, what do you think? I mean, we even asked him that question many times. We say, look, critics are saying that you are heavy-handed here.
Yeah.
And
they were saying some of the suspects are young kids,
boys and
under 16
things.
or yeah.
And the argument was, but when police officers are dying, no one is saying anything.
Yeah.
But then his response has always been standard. Look, IPID exists. They are there. And I don't think a lot of people know, but IPID goes to every scene. And they have a vested interest in any scene where a suspect dies.
Yeah, sure.
So it means that by default, every shooting incident is investigated. So his response has always been, look, here's the thing. We were there. This happened. They produced guns. They shot at our members. Our members are taught not to die with guns in their hand. And I remember controversially at I think it was the awards in 2024, he told his police officers, if a criminal points a gun at you, I just have one thing to say, don't miss. And I think just everyone in the audience just erupted in applause. So that was his stance. He never hid it, that he was saying, you come at us with guns, we're going to fight back. And that's always been the case. So that's what I mean. So during that time, in the build up to July 6th, all of this is still happening. And then comes that breaking point when he gets to July 6th, right? On that day, or on the Saturday, we get a message saying there's a press conference on the Sunday. And we're not told what it is. And when we saw him entering that day in the STF uniform, I think that's when we realized, it's about to go down.
And he touched on a lot of things. I mean, he, again, central to the press briefing was the messages extracted from Matlala's phone when Matlala was coordinating with Brown Mkhwanazi and they wanted to meet Sibiya. One of the main points where he reads out a message where Mkhwanazi says to Matlala, it is done. You don't have to worry about the PKTT anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when it was, of course, disbanded, whatever it is. But then again, what exacerbated the whole situation is, of course, the taking of the dockets.
Exactly. And it comes down to the whole issue of the taking of the dockets.
The recording of the dockets or whatever. So it was 123, 121.
So, I mean, we went with the 121, right?
Yeah.
But the dockets...
I think, wasn't two of them from Eastern Cape and 121 KZN? I'm not sure.
They had the Namhla dockets.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The dockets is an important point.
I'm sorry. And the Namhla story still today, man. It's one story that hasn't been really resolved. And we spoke to her and, she was terrified. The story, actually, the system.
Yeah.
She's in hiding as far as we understand. And I think that's one case that really needs to be solved, man.
And there's so many Namhlas in the, in the bigger scheme of things.
Yeah.
It becomes a case of where it goes back to what I said just now, that this criminal justice system is meant to be serving us, and it's not. And it's not serving us to the true extent of what it should be. So the 121 dockets kind of spoke to that, because I remember we also went out to Mlazi where there was a case that the political killings task team was investigating.
Right.
And that case was one of the dockets that kind of stalled, or one of the cases that stalled because of the dockets. But what I'm getting at is, with everything that was going on, it robbed many people, not just the 121 dockets. I'm talking about the fractures and the corruption and all of that stuff that happened within the SAPS. It robbed citizens of what they deserved, right? There were so many unsolved mysteries in KZN. The Port Shepstone drug bust. for us, I don't know how you viewed it maybe outside of KZN. I think it was big enough to be national news even before it became a thing at the Matlanga Commission. So for us, the question was, hold on, that's a lot of drugs. How does it just disappear? And we never really got answers to that. Because it happened around the time of the July unrest. Remember, it was kind of overshadowed by that. Now, this is important because what else happened during that period?
It's a drug bust.
No, prior, but then you had also Mkhwanazi's death.
Yes, Mkhwanazi's death as well.
All of that happened like during probably one of the worst periods in South Africa's history.
COVID as well was like...
we were still in
during COVID,
COVID-19 times. Right? So like all of this stuff is happening and then you go like, we know that these
but it was like silently covered, you know, even the death of let's say General Sindlile Fazi.
Yeah.
That was covered. It didn't like reach mass conscious, you know what I'm saying?
It didn't. And by that time with
Port Shepstone as well, like you're reporting.
It should have been huge. But we were just asking ourselves, like as journalists and as people who understood the story, like, what happened to these drugs?
Exactly.
But then because we dealing with so many other things and then it kind of just gets surpassed. And you don't hear about it. And it's like now that things are coming out that you realize like, sure, these are the mysteries. The Ayrton drug bust, I remember the reports about it even at the time when I read it. But this whole scene this whole thing just sounds weird. Like what's going on there? Why are those cops there? Why did they intervene? It just goes to show.
I guess speak to it was either incompetence or deliberate sabotage with intention to steal the consignments.
This is it.
That's the thing.
These police officers that were placed in these positions. I heard something so scary, and I think it came out of the commission as well, about how it actually became almost an operational plan that you go out, you do the drug bust, you get all of the cocaine, the 10 bricks or whatever, we take it, we replace the bulk of it, 9 of them gets sent away, put in, you package it to look the same, and then just the one goes in for testing. It's proven to be real, but the rest of it is flour or whatever the thing is. And then we watch this whole media spectacle and it all gets destroyed. But how much of it is actually drugs? I mean, it's hard to prove, but it's like one of the theories that's floating around. And it says a lot, especially because of everything we've learned now. So all of this was happening in the background. These police officers that were placed in those positions were so busy using those positions for power and influence and to enrich themselves that criminals were walking free.
Yeah. I think 2018 as well was very instrumental in a sense that obviously there was a spate of political killings and then you have the establishment of the political killings task team, right? And obviously coordinating it would have been Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo.
Yeah.
Given the fact that he already had a background of how to fight organized crime with the poaching that was happening up in Mpumalanga as well, he dropped this methodology, which subsequently, culminated into what would drive the PKTT and its success as well, and it being a task team. What did you make about people saying, all right, let me just draw it down to what Mkhunu said.
Yeah.
He basically said, it was a bit unfair that a gap of resources were pumped into the PKTT while other units were suffering, and that he believes that it ought to be disbanded because it reached its mandate, despite the good progressive work it was doing.
Yeah, I think that was at the time of its formation, right? It was needed. It was a needed intervention,
right?
And it kind of worked because I can't remember if it was in a single year or it was during a very short period. Because we had the Morade Commission of Inquiry as well that was looking into political
100%,
killings at the time. So political killings was a huge thing in KZN. It was massive. And there were like a lot of historical cases. So I think one of the things that came up was at the time many people felt, look, finally we'll solve these issues. Because the political killings had other spin-offs. Yes, they were involving politicians, but they also had impacts on communities and issues of tender rigging and all of that.
100%.
So it was quite deep.
Yeah.
And then while it was doing its work, people would just listen out for those updates. Cele at the time I think he used to give like quarterly updates. And then no one heard about it because it kind of just, those updates stopped when Mkhunu came in. But at the time of its formation, I think it was widely agreed that it was needed. And it also, I mean, we found out later on that it wasn't the only task team that was
right,
that was established. But like, those were the things that were brewing. But I just want to ask you this because, I mean, we could talk about this for days, but I want to ask you this. If you think back to the July 6th press briefing, do you think that there was any other way, or was there a better way to expose the rot in the SAPS?
Obviously, because Mkhwanazi spoke about the fact that he had been trying to raise this through various means before he could even break rank.
Yeah.
And portfolio committee meetings. You speak about the 5th of March one.
Yeah.
A series of meetings that would have taken place. And it's a thing of, for example, different analogy.
Yeah.
Look what recently happened in Ratanda.
Yeah.
Where residents were fighting and protesting and saying they don't have water.
Right.
They didn't just wake up and started burning tires, flabbergasted.
There's a build-up,
and
right?
became chaotic. It's a build-up.
Yeah.
Right? We report to the councillor, you don't listen.
Yeah.
We go to the mayor, you don't listen.
Right.
We try to go on social media, you don't listen. We try to tag the premier on social media, you don't listen.
Yeah.
We try to speak to the community leaders, you don't listen.
So what do?
Break rank. And then you go out there in public and you expose whatever happens. Look, there's a lot of challenges in the SAPS. And what we've seen is that as a result of the July 6th, we're now seeing what's happening. Systematic rot that's embedded within the criminal justice system. And one would say, perhaps maybe that was justified. Yeah.
I just, let me wrap with this. I just think that even if you took out all of the allegations, let's even remove all of the major allegations that came out of July 6th. So the Vusimuzi Ketmatlala, the Senzo Mkhunu, the Spear, all of that, the big names, Mkhwanazi and all that. Even if you took that out, my view is it wasn't about what was said in that briefing. It was about the conversation that briefing started. So we're obviously going to have people that disagree with the content and disagree with the implications and say that, look, there's been no proof that Senzo Mkhunu is actually implicated in anything. He could have just been an innocent bystander in all of this. Mkhwanazi could have framed him. Mkhwanazi was an information peddler and all of those things. But my personal view, is that the conversation that was sparked, that was something that was needed, and it was desperately needed because, I mean, at this rate, the entire criminal justice system was going to collapse. Pule, you see, so taking your phone away was actually really valuable because I had your full attention for all of this, right?
Yeah, but definitely.
But just
the
all
first
that thought,
time ever.
it's all that thought because you know what? Otherwise, you and I were going to be here all night.
100%.
But listen, you definitely want to catch the next episode of SA Explained on this topic because this is where we now get into what happened post July 6th. And that, I think, is really the important bit about the implications, the commission, the committee, and most importantly, what does it mean for us as South Africans who are living in this country where we find out that the criminal justice system seems like it's up for sale.